Hello everybody, my name's Carrie. Thank you so much for being here. Today is January 9th. It's a Friday and I'm coming to you from just outside of Portland, Oregon, where today it's cloudy and not rainy and it's a pretty decent day. So I actually think I can get a dog walk in today. We've had some pretty heavy rain showers and rainstorms coming through, but today looks like it's going to be pretty good. But I wanted to pop in because I have a whole bunch of stuff that I've been working on since the last time I was here back in December, and I just wanted to share it and put something happy on the internet. So thank you for joining me and finding me here and all of those things. I do appreciate it. So I'm just going to jump into it actually. So as you can see, I have a pretty big quilt on the wall. I just finished this yesterday and I am super excited about it. So this doesn't have a pattern. This was part of a project that I did with my online sewing group that we Zoom and sit and sew on Saturdays if you can make it. And a couple of years ago, we did a challenge of making all 100 blocks out of this book. I had the book spiral bound so that I could lay it flat, do that kind of thing. And so I had decided when I made this, or when I was approaching this project, I thought, well, let me use up scraps because I have a lot of scraps. I don't have a lot of yardage, but I have a lot of scraps. What do I have the most of? And I had the most of blue and I had the most of green for whatever reason. And so my thought was, just as an additional challenge, is I'm going to do these blocks and like the odd numbers going to be blue and the even numbers are going to be green. And I just approached it that way and try and use up a lot of the scraps. I don't know why, but for some reason the scraps didn't go down, and this is the second quilt I've made out of them. So I don't know what happens. I think they're like, it's kind of like rabbits. It's just growing. But I had made the blue quilt, sent it to a friend because he really liked it, and then I just had these green blocks, and it was like, I'm over it. I've done it. I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I didn't particularly like the blocks that are in the book. They just felt, some of them are just way too easy and they weren't inspiring, but I did it as a group project as we did. And so I've just had these green blocks in my cupboard and I was tidying up and putting things away, and it was like, oh, I still have all these blocks. I had like 49 of them. 50. I had 49 for some reason. I should have had 50 if I made 100, but I don't know. Maybe there's another one in the cupboard. But anyway, I thought, you know what? I've got all these. They're made. I'm on this mission of making quilts to donate because I do like the process of making quilts, but I don't need any. And everybody in my family's gotten a quilt. Like, nobody really needs a quilt, but I like the process. I have a lot of scraps. So my mission right now is to make quilts to donate. I am going to donate through my local guild, who can then distribute to the different agencies in my local area. And so that has been kind of freeing, because I would always be like, oh, I like that quilt, but I don't need another quilt. What am I going to do with it when it's done? All that kind of stuff. I don't want to necessarily buy fabric because quilting fabric is expensive. And I have all these scraps. I have been given some bolts of solids, or something that reads as a solid, from a friend of mine that got them because she was designing patterns, and she's like, I'm not using these anymore. If you want to use them for your donation quilts, here you go. That has been really freeing, because now I have scraps to make the blocks, but then I've also got background fabric that I don't have to go out and buy. So I have been able to put together a couple quilts without having to purchase anything, which is really, really good. So I decided, okay, let me do something with these blocks. Let me think about what I'm going to do. Last year, I can say last year because now we're into 2026, I got online and just like, what donation quilts, comfort quilts, like is there any kind of parameters, like don't make them this size, don't do this or do this or whatever. And so a lot of the fabric companies and magazines will have free patterns on their website. And I came across this one, and this came from American Patchwork and Quilting. And so I thought, oh, that's a nice, simple, I can do something like that with my scraps, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't make the quilt exactly like this, but this inspired this layout. So what I did is I had each of the blocks, which were about a 6-inch block, and I thought, well, in order to make this a decent sized quilt, I need to add to it. So I framed each block in this like aqua seafoam green. It depends. It's a funny color because if you put it with blue, it looks greenish. If you put it with green, it looks bluish. So it's one of those aqua kind of colors. So I just did a skinny little border around everything, and then I just did a simple sashing, and that's like a dark olive forest green color that I have a bolt of, and I'm like, that's not a color I work with much ever. What am I going to do with it? Went perfectly with this. And as I started getting this put together, sat and, did all the frames around all of them. I've used 48 of the blocks, so the rest of them are going in the garbage. I got one block of that, and I had a couple blue ones left over. I'm like, I'm done with these. But with these that I had, I just put sashing in between, and I love it so much. And these were blocks that I almost threw away because I thought, what am I going to do with these? I don't necessarily love them. And the project was like meh, but now that I've got it put together and I put it together like this, not tooting my own horn, but I think it came out pretty dang good. And I'm really, really excited about this one. So it's made a decent sized lap quilt by adding just some sashing, some solid color with it, and then the blocks all just sort of speak for themselves. So that was really exciting. Like I said, I finished that yesterday. I've got a quilt on the long arm that I don't know that I'm going to get to it today. I have high hopes, but how the days go. I don't have very much left to do on it, and then when I get that off, I'll put this one on. And I think I have somebody that I want to send this to. So that's exciting. And just to use like some orphaned blocks and just, I don't know, it was really fun to do. So the backing will be that dark green because I had it on a bolt, like I said, so I didn't have to come up with that. That's all ready to go. I made it to size. I've already cut and made my binding, so that's ready to go. And then that way, when it's done quilting, it's like I just moved to the next step. So that one was very exciting, and it was a really enjoyable project. It's as simple as it was perfect. It was perfect because once I did my math and kind of figured things out, it's just assembly line, and I love that kind of quilt making where you just can sit there and just like listen to an audio book or watch a program or something and just sit and sew, and it was very enjoyable. And this time of year in my craft room, which I have an amazing craft room, is perfect. I love working in here at this time of year because it's not hot. I have 2 large windows in here that face the south, and during the winter, the sun is lower and more south. So if the sun's shining, but even today when it's cloudy, it's kind of bright out, I get all that natural light coming in, and it doesn't heat up the room too bad. So it's only been getting up to about 70 in here, which is perfect. In the summertime, I can't be up in here because it's like 80 in here. So that's not as comfortable for me to be in here. So I've been really, this has been my sanctuary with all the stuff going on with Jim and his cancer treatment and all that kind of stuff. It's just nice to be able to be like, I'm just going to my little space, close the door, all my happy things up here, and I spend the whole day up here, and I love it. So, quilt number 1. I also finished another quilt that was super fun to work on. I have been very fortunate in the fact that people have given me fabric, and Chip had sent a whole bunch of fabric to me that he had. Don't know why he had some of these colors, but he did for whatever his projects were. And he's like, could you use these for your donation quilt? I'm like, absolutely. I'll figure out a way to use them. And I loved them. And so I'm searching through my patterns, like, what can I do that's not too intricate? Right now, I just don't want to do anything too intricate. And being that it's for a donation, not that people that get donated a quilt don't deserve a nice quilt and a nice effort, I didn't want anything super detailed. And so I searched through my patterns and I found this one. So this is called Vintage and it's by So Kind of Wonderful. And I had this pattern and it has a ruler that goes with it. The ruler is a straight ruler, but there's a slit in it so that you can cut things at this angle. And I don't know why, but I saw that pattern when they came out with it a few years ago, and I was like, I love that. That'd be a great way to use up some fabric, blah, blah, blah. So basically you cut these shapes out of your fabric, and then when it's put together and it's sewn in rows, you get that kind of, it's almost like a lava lamp shape, really, if you go this way. So it's that. So anyway, I dug into the stack of fabric that he had, these pieces, and I was like, I think I have enough, because some of them weren't full, like some of them were fat quarters and some were cut into, and I added a little bit of my own fabric to supplement, to kind of add to the color scheme that was going on, and I made the grooviest quilt. And this one made me so happy because this quilt is like what I would have loved as a kid. These were my colors back when I was a little kid in the 70s, 60s. And so, let me show you. I did post, I don't know if I posted the finished, I think I did. So you may have seen this if I posted this on Instagram. But I made this super groovy quilt. Isn't that fun? I'm going to hang this up on the design wall so you can see it better. So that is the Vintage Quilt by So Kind of Wonderful, using up scraps and donated fabrics, and I love it so much. So there's not really much I can say other than this was just an absolute joy to work on, and I will make another one of these quilts because it was pretty easy, and honestly these shapes are pretty easy to sew together, because you are sewing it in rows. So say you have like this shape, but this is a row that'll go together, and this is a row that go together, and then when they line up, you get that kind of lava lamp shape. I think it was perfect for this like funky fabric that I had. So yeah, that is quilt number 2 that got finished, and that's a nice lap size, or like a small, like for a kid. And I just figure, you know, some of the organizations that the guild donates to is some of them they'll give to the police station, because sometimes when they go and if they have to take a kid out of a home to put into foster care, they like to give them something. Sometimes it's a stuffed animal, or if they have a quilt. And I thought this would make some little girl feel so special. And, you know, I'm here to change lives. Chip, that one's for you. In the process, so anyway, that's done. I've got the backing ready, so that's going to go into the queue for quilting. I now have a few quilts that I need to just do the long arm quilting of, so I'm hoping to spend some more time getting some of those done, so that I can do the whole completed thing and do the binding and blah, blah, blah. One thing I decided to do when I was working on that green quilt is, in my reorganization, it wasn't even really reorganizing. It was like things were falling out of the cupboard, so I had to restack. That's my reorganization. I found this stack that I was given of squares that were, they're pinked, so they were like a sample. And my friend, I think, got these because she was going to make a quilt and got like some sample fabrics to figure out which ones she wanted to pick. These are not anything she normally uses. And she's like, can you use these? And I'm like, of course, because I'll take, if you offer me fabric that I can actually feel like I can use, I'll take it. And I'll figure out a way to use it. And so I found this stack and I was like, you know, I've really been wanting to make a half square triangle quilt. I think they're a lot of fun, and there's so many variations of how you can lay it out to get really unique layouts and designs from just which way you turn things and your lights and your darks and stuff like that. So what I decided to do when I was putting together the green one, I use leaders and enders, which is usually just a little scrap of fabric, and I'll run that under my needle, do that so that it kind of starts that thread and you don't end up with that thread nest underneath. And then I'll just do my piecing, and when I'm done with whatever piecing I'm doing, I run another little scrap of fabric through so that holds the thread. Otherwise, you have to like hold it when you start, because usually when you start, it kind of gets this little thread nest under. So I use just a little scrap of fabric. And I thought, a friend of mine has done this before, and it's not anything I've invented. But I thought, what if I worked on this half square triangle quilt that I want to make and use that as my leader and ender? I've never been able to really make another quilt while I'm making a quilt, because usually it's like you got to keep things in order, or don't, just to not mix things up. But with this, I'm just making a bunch of half square triangles. That can be my leader and ender. So I started doing that. I was about halfway through the quilt when I decided to do it, so I didn't have enough time to get them all done. But I just took the squares, so they're all different colors. I'm using as the solid or the light, this kind of aqua. See, now it's looking a little green here. This is what I have a bolt of, and I thought it goes well with all the colors. So I cut my solid at 6 inches. These squares are about 5 inches. And so that way I'm not having to worry about exactly laying them on. I've got a little wiggle room. I drew a diagonal line, and then I'm stitching on either side of the diagonal line. And then what that does is then I'll cut down the middle, because I've got space now between that, and I end up with a half square triangle. I have to trim this one down. But I'll have a bunch of these, and then depending on how you set them, like you can get some, you can do a pinwheel, like there's a whole bunch of layouts. So I was kind of playing with some different layouts on EQ, which is Electric Quilt, which is I'm just explaining this for people that don't quilt. It is a program that you can design quilts on, and I like to do that, to even just see, like, I'll even take a quilt, maybe something, not this particular, but I'll take a quilt that's already been done. I'm like, oh, I wonder what it'll look like in these colors. And I'll kind of recreate it in that program so that I can see how colors look and stuff like that. So I just took the half square triangle and kind of played around with, like, I wanted it to look kind of modern, and like, so I think I came up with a really nice layout. We'll see how it looks once I make these all and stick them on the wall. But I think it's going to look pretty cool. And I had enough of these squares, these colored darker squares, whatever, in all different colors to be able to do this. So I didn't get, like I said, I didn't get through all of them, but I think I'm going to have this as my like leader and ender project. And when it's all done, then I'll have enough pieces to make a quilt. So I'm not sure exactly what my next quilt will be, but I'm on a roll. I feel like I'm on a roll, and I feel like part of it's the time of year, being able to be in here, and just having that freedom of having the background fabric on bolts. That was really freeing, because that's usually what stops me, is I don't have yardage of anything. So that has been good. And then knowing that I've got a purpose for them, I can make them. It's not really costing me a whole lot. I mean, I got to come up with the backing, batting, do the quilting, all that kind of stuff. But as far as like fabric purchase, it should be pretty minimal. And that makes me really happy. And I get something really fun and funky like that. So that's been my obsession lately, has just been that. And I haven't been that excited about quilting in a really long time, actually. So it feels good. That's been my obsession right now. And I talked to my mom the other day. She's like, what have you been working on? I'm like, well, I've kind of had this like ADD thing going on in my craft room. So I'm like, do a little of this, go over here. I need to do something different, sit somewhere different. Okay, let me spin for a little bit. I'm working on a sweater on my knitting machine. I'm all over the place, but it's been a lot of fun. So that's all the sewing and quilting and that nonsense. I have been doing quite a bit of knitting as well. It's all going well, and I'm riding the wave. So let me start with some things that I finished. So I was on YouTube to watch some, I don't know, I was like looking to see if there's any new podcasts or anything. And I don't watch a ton, but there's a couple that I do like to watch. And so as the like suggested for you, or maybe I subscribed to this person, I don't know. She was showing how to make these, what they're called, Izzy dolls on the knitting machine. So my knitting machine's knit flat. And that's what she was showing it on. I'm like, well, that's like super cute. So I dug a little deeper into this. And I got on Pinterest so I could see lots of variations, and basically you just make these little dolls. So I have to do some kind of whiskers for this. This is a little kitten, and I chose to do this because the dolls that you make that look like a little boy or a little girl have more shaping up here, and I just didn't feel like tackling that as my first thing to just see how this goes. So basically you just knit this flat and you're knitting a rectangle, and there's so many, so many rows to do. Changed the yarn so I can make the head, and I just kind of tucked with some stitching to make these little ears. I think I needed to stuff this a little bit more, and I may need to go down on my gauge a little bit to make it tighter, because it's a little crooked, but it's cute. So then I went down the rabbit hole on Pinterest, and there's so many variations and so many clever ways that people have been making these little dolls. So I don't have any little kids in my life, but I thought, we're still going to be doing a lot of hospital visits and things like that maybe I can, part of the hospital where we're going is a children's hospital, and I thought I might see if they would take these as a donation, just for some, like, make different people or different animals or different somethings. So it was a little fiddly, but I think once I got it down and I like not understand it, but like get kind of to where I'm not learning it, I can just do it. It'll go a little smoother. The seaming it and all that kind of stuff was okay, but I thought, why can't I knit this in a circle? So with this, I use DK weight yarn. A lot of it is the Stylecraft DK acrylic yarn, and I can't knit in a circle on that machine that can knit this thicker weight yarn. I can make a circle with fingering weight. So what I might do is figure out gauge so that I can get about this size. It can be a little bit bigger, but to keep it little. And maybe do it on my other machine that I have a ribber attachment that I can make it knit in a circle. And then all I have to do is you just, like the bottom, you just cinch the bottom, put some stuffing in, and then stitched for legs, did a little stitching for the arms, did some stitching to tuck in the neck. And even the little people are cute. You make it look like they have a hat, and then it looks like that you can make like pant color and a shirt color, and there's so many different ways. I didn't have any yarn because I don't have any flesh color, which can be a lot of different shades of neutral. I don't own any of that. So I was hesitant to make a person because I don't have like any kind of a face color. So I may have to find some, maybe dye some. I don't know. Come up with something and make little people, because the little people are adorable, and you make them look like they have a little hat, or you can just make it look like hair, and then you can add little pigtails you can go down a huge rabbit hole on Pinterest with all these adorable versions of these little dolls. So I may make some of I'm still kind of on the fence. I think like what my next step is to see if I can do it with fingering weight to make the actual circle, although that could be tricky for decreasing because the people have more of a rounded head. Maybe doing little kitty cats and straight, I don't know. It was something fun to do, something fun to try. And so if you're so inclined to even try yourself with some scraps, for this DK version, it recommended 32 stitches. So it doesn't take a whole ton. And then there's like, you knit, if you were doing like actual legs and shirts, like knit so many for the shoes and so many rows for the pants. And Aquila made something similar to this a few years ago, and it was like, oh my gosh, that is so dang cute. And did she do it on her sock machine? And now I can't remember. But at the time I was like, I need to make those, and then I completely forgot about it. This video came up, and I was like, okay, let me try it. So I may make more of these little doodads in the future, but it was kind of a fun little project to work on. Something else I'm doing on my knitting machine is I started my stripe sweater based off of the Stripe Hype hand knit sweater. I got the back done, and then I bounced. I made a couple quilts, but I got the back done, and so here's my back piece. So I decided to do the blue on the bottom. I am using the paprika. Pretty unanimous. Everybody agreed with me that the paprika, was it paprika? Papaya needed to go in here, and then some purple. So I need to do the front, which will be very similar. It just, that'll have a little more shaping for neck. So I have to be like in the right frame of mind to tackle that concentration. This had very little shaping. This stuff is waste yarn, this white. So what I'll do, it's like having a provisional cast on, is I'll knit the front piece, and then I can do like a Kitchener on the seams. And then the sleeves, I'm going to do like this. So it'll be this orange color near the bottom of my arm, and the green up here. So this yarn feels really nice. This is Wool of the Andes. I had talked about thinking that, talked about last time, I have the pink on a cone, and it looked thinner, and it definitely does look thinner, but when you block it, it ends up being the same as what's on the skein. I think it just, when it's spun into that cone, the cone's pretty tight. I think it's just the tension on the yarn, but it feels really nice. You know, I haven't worn it, but like I said, this is blocked, and it feels next to skin. Like, I don't have any issues with it. So because this is worsted, I was trying to use the gauge from the Stripe Hype sweater, but that's written for DK. And so then what I thought, it was, let me look and see, just find a worsted sweater, see what's typical for a gauge for worsted, because I don't knit worsted. So I pulled up the flax sweater and saw what the gauge was, and thought, let me just try and match that, because that's obviously a very popular pattern. And so that's what I went with. So it is pretty big gauge, which is good because it'll be a little more airy, being that this is worsted, and it's got a lot of drape. So I think it's going to be cute. Don't you? I think it's going to be cute. Even if I just wear it at home. I'm going to sneeze. The goal is to make it pretty oversized so it fits like a loose sweatshirt. And that's kind of just how I want it to be used. And it's drop shoulder, and it's just fit like a loose sweatshirt. So I'm hoping that's how it turns out. But there you go. My version of Stripe Hype. I actually knit this whole piece and got up here and realized I was only going to get one stripe of purple, because I did 10 rows, I think, per color change. And it was like, oh, my math wasn't quite right. I was trying to do the math. What I didn't consider is that you got the ribbing. I counted all the rows that I needed and split that up for the colors, but didn't account for the 15 rows or whatever it was on for the ribbing. I created a pattern off of the Knit It Now website that I subscribe to, where you can put in your gauge, put in the measurements that you want the sweater to be, and then it gives you a pattern. Basically, it doesn't tell you how to, it just says, you know, cast on these many stitches, do these many rows, decrease this way, and you know, it's just giving you the instructions for the basic construction of it. And so because I don't do it very often, I can't retain it in my brain. And so when I do the front and I've got to do the more of a shaping here, I kind of have to watch some videos first and all that. So I was so focused on this stuff, I just couldn't go here. But now I'm ready. I'm ready to start this, because that's done for a while. So going to do this. And something I did, which you can't see it. No, you can't see it. Something I did with my knitting machines, which I'm not sure if I mentioned, is I got a one of those adjustable tables, you know, like you can stand and work at. And I put my machines on that, and that has been so nice because I can stand and do it, which is more comfortable. And then like when I'm using the machine that uses the bigger yarn to do the ribbing, you actually knit this. You're seeing, when you're knitting on the machines, you're seeing the purl side. So it just knits stockinette. That's all it does. And so then I have to actually drop the stitches and then latch them back up. And when I latch them back up, it's the knit side on my side, which gives you a knit purl. So I have to sit there and, you know, through the whole thing. And when it was really low on like a, you know, normal table height, that was really uncomfortable to get down that far. But now I'm standing and I'm knitting. And then when I sit down to do the ribbing, it's like eye level. That was a great change that I made, that's going to make my machines way more user friendly, and then it gets me standing up and not sitting so much. So those are my works in progress. So now, no, that's not all of them. Should I go into more? Let's do the rest of the works in progress before I show you what I finished. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I showed you. Yeah, I did. I remember talking about it. The Rocketeer. So I am working on it still. I kind of put it aside because at first I was like, oh, I don't think I have enough of this purple that I got from Aaron at Fiber Hustle, because this was just a one of a kind that he's like, yeah, it was a mop-up thing. Well, I thought, well, I'll just use, like, I think I have a navy blue in my cupboard. Let me look. And so when I went to look, I found another skein of this. So evidently I got 2 skeins of it. I was so excited. It's a little bit lighter in color, so I'm alternating skeins here towards the end. You can maybe see that there's a little more kind of pinkish color, but it's so minute that you can't notice. And then I was getting, so what I have to do is continue to decrease. Let me grab this. So it's at this point, the apex, and now it's decreasing, and continue to decrease to this point. And I got back there and I was like, you know, I don't think this is going to come out right. I don't think I have the right amount of rows. And it was like, texted Aaron, and I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And I know he's had issues with this section. And so I'm like, I put it down, like, I don't think it's going to work. And then I picked it back up the other night and I thought, let me recount again, because, you know, you got to consider this, that, and the other thing. And I do think it's going to work. So I'm going to continue on. I was tempted to just rip it out. Like, okay, I don't know. It's a lot of knitting for a scarf. It's a lot of knitting, but it's looking pretty cool, and that's what it's all about. So I'll get to this point, bind off or do something, put them on hold or something, and then I pick up again with this color, which is my kind of my main color, and then you sort of fill in the space. So this is the Rocketeer by Maxim Cyr. It's just modular. It's easy to do. It may look a little more complicated. Oh my gosh, look how cool that looks. So it's very, very long. Very, very long. But I think it's going to look really cool. So I'm back to working on it. It is a project I can do while I'm watching TV. I just have to keep track of where to do the decrease and stuff. I don't know, it's already pretty heavy, and I think this almost could be a sweater for the amount of yarn that's used in it. So the other colors, so that purple I got from Aaron, and then the other colors were colors that I dyed that were just that I had in my cupboard. Oh, don't get tangled. Okay, it's kind of outgrowing my Scrappy Angel bag. Can't quite zip it up anymore. And then I started the Jaunty. So I know a lot of people are making this. I have several friends that have made it. And I had some hand spun that I was making something else with. Can't remember what. And it was like, I'm not enjoying this. Let me pull that out, and I think it'll be good for a Jaunty, and I'm really enjoying it. This is actually, like, I think I mentioned last episode, like, I need sort of that mindless, you know, almost stockinette. This is almost that. I mean, like, this is pretty easy and mindless. So this is using hand spun. The fiber is, I don't remember, but my friends got it for me in 2025 when they went to Rhinebeck, and I spun it like a gradient, so you can kind of see the blue was changing and getting darker, and then all of a sudden it just changed. So evidently when I got the fiber, it was in several pieces, and so I tried to lay it out to what looked like kind of a gradient, and evidently I didn't gradiate very well. So I have a stripe. So it's going into this, which will continue with this like darker blue color. And then it's going to start getting a little more purple. And then I had to put this as 2 different skeins. And then it's going to be a little darker, more purple. So it is going to change color throughout the whole thing. I'm not quite halfway, I don't think. So you knit till you've used up 45% of your yarn, and then you start decreasing, I think, or do something else. So I'm not quite there to that point. I'm still increasing. Couple spots where when I spun or plied, I had to tie it in a knot. And I goofed right here. There's a line, but I think I misread where I was on the pattern. Very easy pattern. It's an 8-row repeat, which really just the first row is you do an increase or decrease or whatever, and then you're just doing the half fisherman's rib, which I'd never done before, and it's actually very enjoyable. Very squishy. It's going to be very stretchy. There is a jaunty along happening with Andrea Mowry and Daedalus, who makes spinning wheels. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you haven't already figured it out, if you watch Needles at the Ready, they had on their podcast where they were giving away the newest version of the Daedalus e-spinner, and it's like you had to make a comment, whatever it was, and I got picked. I actually won an e-spinner. I am so beyond excited about this. So the e-spinner that I use right now is an older electric eel wheel, back when they were made out of wood. I bought it used from somebody on Facebook, and it's been fine. My only really not concern, but thing, my wish list kind of thing, is I wish it had bigger bobbins, because it just it's small and the bobbins aren't very big, so you fill them up fast, especially when you're plying. I can't usually get a whole skein on one bobbin, but it's been fine. And I'm like, it's not, I'm not going to spend the extra money on a spinner just so that I can get a bigger bobbin. And then they came out with this Dove from Daedalus, which is a smaller spinner, and it pretty much has everything I want on it. And I know from people that have used the Daedalus spinners that they spin really nice, and they're quiet and all this stuff. And as a random pick, they honestly randomly picked it through like their device, picked however it was that they did, and it picked me, and I am so excited. It was such a great way to start 2026 for me, because last year was pretty shitty. So I'm like, okay, good things are going to happen this year. It's already starting off really good. So it hasn't shipped to me yet. I'll get that here soon. So I'm currently spinning. Oh, I should pull that out. I'm currently spinning. I'm spinning 3 different braids to ply them together, because they were similar in color. And I've got one full braid's already spun. The other one's almost done. And so when I get the Dove spinner from Daedalus, I'm going to spin the 3rd braid on it, and then I can ply, and it's got a bigger bobbin. So when I ply it, it can all kind of go together. It may or may not make it all the way as like a 3 braids plied together. Probably still won't all fit as one hank of yarn, but I can fit more together. And it's supposed to spin really nice. I mean, I spin okay, but hopefully it'll up my game. So I'm super excited. I'm so thankful that I'm so appreciative of all of that. And yeah, so I will share more of that when I get it. And that's exciting. So I'm not necessarily joining the jaunty along. I just happen to be knitting the jaunty with hand spun. I didn't necessarily spin this fiber to be the jaunty, but it's working out to be a really nice jaunty. While I'm on the topic of spinning, let me show you what I've spun so far. And the sun's coming out. It's getting really bright in here. Okay, bobbin number 1 I'm doing is Nest Fiber Superwash Merino called Prism. So this was a, pinks and blues and all these beautiful colors. So that's been done a while. Back when I was first spinning and learning to spin, I was in a club with Nest Fibers, and I did that for a little while, and for these 3 months, so that was July, and then in August, I got this, which was very similar. And I'm thinking, okay, that's like almost the same color. I mean, it was similar enough. I was like, okay. And then in September, I got this color. So I thought, okay, I'm in this club, but I'm kind of getting the same colors. I don't know if that's normal for them or just happened to be that way. But I obviously am not part of that anymore. You know what? Look at that. It goes with that quilt. So this is my second bobbin, or second fiber, braid, whatever. She's rolling around. So I think, plying those are going to be pretty. And then I do this one, which is very similar, and ply them all together. It's going to look like this quilt. This has got a little blue in it, so it'll be a little bit different. So, I spin pretty thin. I think it looks pretty good. But I'm excited to try this new wheel and finish up the spin with this fiber. So I've got this much still to go, a little less than half of that one. And then I'll do this one on my new wheel and then apply them. And then I'll have really pretty yarn. I don't sit and spin. I mean, I do. I'll sit and spin for like a half hour or hour, but I don't do it every day, which I probably should. I just have too many different crafts. I have too many things I like to do, and they all bring me joy, and they all have their time when I like to work on them. And so I don't get things done quickly because I have too many things. So, hey, there could be worse problems in my life. There are. So this is my happy problem. So I'm excited for that. I'm super, super excited for that. And then I did actually finish a couple knitting things. So I have made the Flannel Crush Cowl by Samantha Guerin. So this is made out of Fiber Hustle. I think I showed that I was working on it. Yeah, I think I showed that I had started it or was working on it, and I did finish it. The pattern calls for sport weight yarn. I made this out of fingering, thinking I could really block it out, but it still turned out too small for my liking. How am I going to do this? Ugh. It's just, I don't know. I might wear it. Probably not. I want it out here. So anyway, I blocked it and really, really aggressively blocked it out. I had, at the time when I was making it, I had thought of trying to add more repeats, but I couldn't figure out how to do that and still end up, because you're knitting it flat and then you seam it. And so like to still end up with this being the same size, I don't know. I was just like, I'm just going to make it to pattern and see what happens. So pretty, and I like it, and the colors are neat, and the yarn's fantastic. I just don't know that I'm going to wear this. So I'm either going to give this away or tear it out. And I'm good with either of those decisions. I'm just not ready to make that decision yet. So nice pattern to work with. I did the Grid Gambit later last year, not too long ago. And that's a DK weight. And I did like the fact that this was lighter. I just wish that the pattern was written for fingering so that I didn't have to do like refiguring all that stuff. But it's done. Another thing I made, and the yarn. So the blue, this is from Fiber Hustle. The blue is Strong Enough, and the variegated is Tuesday Night Music Club. These are colorways based off of a Sheryl Crow album cover. In that same group of colors based on the same album, I made this hat. Isn't that pretty? So this is the Folia hat by Erica Huser. The light color is the Nana yarn, and the dark color is All I Want to Do. And I wanted like a little color work, but not like a sweater's color work, and this hat was just perfect. And I thought that those colors just went so good together. I don't have any, this is about as neutral as I can get. Honestly, I don't have anything more neutral than that. But it's a cute hat. And it's light, like little lightweight, fingering weight hat. And I think the design looks really pretty. So that was really fun to do. Really quick project. Because once you get through that little bit of color work, which was very, very simple, it's just making a hat, right? Just doing the rest. So that is all the projects that I'm currently actively working on. I'm trying to kind of go through and purge and organize because I have craft stuff all over. I have tried so many crafts, which is the fun part for me. I love the whole process of learning how to figure it out, and do I even like this? And some things I've tried and I'm like, yeah, it's just not for me, but I tried it. Well, I have all the stuff because like you got to get all the stuff. Like I have a whole wood burning kit because I was going to do all that and realize that you need to know how to draw basically in order to do that. And I don't know how to draw. So Jim gets the wood burning stuff. But you know, I've got like a crap like that I need to, I'm slowly going through some of the stuff, getting rid of stuff, like all my scrapbooking stuff. I don't scrapbook anymore. I don't need all the funky scissors and all that stuff. So somebody at the thrift store is going to be so happy because they're going to get a whole bunch of really good crafting stuff. So trying to make time to do that. That's not really what I want to do. So I tend to be in here doing what I want to do because that's way more fun. And yeah. So going forward, I'm going to do some more quilts, do some more of all of this really. And I'm hoping to be a little bit more active on here, especially since I have some things to talk about. When I'm in the funk where I'm not really making a whole lot, or I'm making stuff that goes really slow, it's hard to get on here and talk about like the same old thing. So we'll see what happens going forward. So I hope your new year is starting off as good as mine, because honestly, it's starting off really nice. Fingers crossed it keeps going. We're up to the 9th. So far, nothing catastrophic has happened to me yet. So enjoy your new year. I will get back with you hopefully soon. And thank you for stopping by. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.